Okay, so what I did is now I finished pretty much the slabs. Okay, so the slabs, structure slabs. I made it properly for these two buildings and for the middle here as well. That's why you can see the column detail around. I also made it properly here, but I did not do it correctly here. So everything should be carefully surrounding the column. So for that, you should have done it properly from the beginning, but otherwise you go to edit sketch and you start drawing from the top of the footing properly around the columns. Okay, I'm going to just do one column as an example. Say okay. I'm going to 3D. As you can see, that column is set properly and nice. No? All of the surrounding ones should be the same. Okay, I went to the first floor and I created two sections that could be already sections that you might want to use from now on as important sections to visualize. Okay, section 1 and 2. If you go to the drawing list, you should check how we're going to rename our sections. And the way to do sections is simple as view, section, and drawing 2 points. Okay, they don't have a number assignated until we locate it in a sheet. No? So to navigate between sections, it's simple as double clicking, and that's your section. By default, it comes with a cropping box, so you normally want to expand it around properly and just hide it. You don't want to see that one. Okay, so it's as simple as clicking there, and the same for section 2, clicking there, so it's a clean section. Okay, now all this time I was working with thin lines, this TL shortcut, because I was using the magenta line, the creation mode, to see better the lines. I thought that it would be better to have thin lines. So you should never ever present a document under thin line configurations, because what you're doing is getting rid of your sectional quality. Okay, everything is the same uniform thickness. We don't want that. The good thing about Revit is that it already manages thick of lines, thickness, etc. Okay, so in the sections, the same as the elevations, we're gonna organize the levels properly so their distance to the building a good amount of space so they don't interfere with them. We also need to clean up a little bit the organization of our levels so we can read both the levels that they're one on top of the other one. Okay, sometimes you need even more space. Set yourself a good distance. Okay, we'll see later on that some of the levels could be in one side and some other levels in the other one, depending on how the section goes from the atrium to the lab or vice versa, etc. Okay, one thing to notice as I created the slab is that I forgot to duplicate it and change the thickness of the slab. Now that is carefully mentioned here, and in the section, and that's why sections are very valuable, in the section I can see that the slab, it's flying on top of the footing. So I'm going to go to thin line again so we see it carefully. That should not happen. Thin line again. So at this point I can select the slab, which is 6 inches. I never duplicate it. And I'm going to just change it now. I'm going to say edit type, duplicate. I'm going to say 8 inches. And I have to change, obviously, the dimension to 8. Okay. Perfect. Thin line. The top of the slab, thin line again, is exactly at basement floor level. And the bottom is at top of footing. Now let's see, because I just changed this one that I can select here. I did not change the middle slab here, so I can now select it and change it to 8 inches. So it changes right there. And most probably I'm going to go to the other section by double clicking here and seeing whether the slabs are properly organized or not. Yes, they are. So it's actually the other section, the one I have to go. There is. No? So this slab again should be 8 inches foundation style. There we go. This section also needs to be perfectly clean, distancing the levels from the architecture and also separating the possible levels that are overlapping. There you go. This one should have that criteria as well. Normally, if you zoom out enough, these points could snap between themselves. See how they snap? So you correspond the same angle, so it's perfectly clean between them. Okay, the sections should pop out further from the grids, both vertically and horizontally, and the grids also should pop out a bit lower there. Okay. In both sections, things have to be as clean as we see them here. A bit above, a bit below. Perfect. Okay, saving time. Okay, we continue. Not much to do anymore, actually. It's to create two drawings, two sheets that they're going to be called S101 and S100. Okay, so as simple as going to the sheets, new sheet, you load. If you don't have it here, you load it, you search for your title block, desize, and you drag in the structural plans that we don't have. Here is the step we're missing. Add structural plans. So among all the architectural plans, there's always a set of drawings there from the engineers and sometimes often from the architectural office as well. They're called the structural plans, structural sections, etc., even structural details. We're going to create a series of structural plans as well. So what we need is to first create structural plans the same way as we were creating floor plans. So you go to the first floor. I'm going to say View, Plan View, Structural Plans. And we're going to select Level 1 and Top of Footing. First floor, Composite, Top of Footing, pressing Control and saying OK. Structural plans in Revit appear on top of floor plans, which is similar to the organization of a sheet set in construction documents. They always go before. Okay. So now you can double click and see how the structural plans look like. I'm going to close everything but this one. Now, the structural plans have different visibility criteria than the ones from architecture. So there's one thing called template. So we're going to apply templates to these structural plans that we just generated. As I mentioned last class, a template is a way of, hey, I want to copy however this view looks, and I want to apply it to this other view by applying that template. So there are already saved templates that you can use. Default templates, such as structural. So you can select top of footing, right click, apply templates, properties, and here this one should be there. If you don't see it, most probably because the discipline does not have the structural there, so say all, and it should be here. You say OK. And I don't know if you noticed, but everything changed a bit. Now we see the footings, we see carefully the wall sections, and it's totally different view from the other ones that we were seeing before. I'm going to Control C that, so you see this is what we saw before. This is like an architectural plan. In order to see a structural plan, again we need to apply structural framing plan template, and it changes entirely. That also goes to the first floor composite. Right click, apply template. Not much is going to change here, but once we create the structure, the new beams, the metal beams that are going to come with them, we're going to see it like this with many tags, etc. So it's going to have a whole entire quality explaining the structural elements of this plan. Okay. Now, one thing I noticed is that all my grids are a mess. I want the same grid organization, and that's why I worked so effortlessly my first floor composite here. Remember that we can always propagate. Select everything, filter, check none, grids, propagate, and now I can select the structural plans here. Say OK. If I go to the structures, my grids are properly set. Again, this idea of propagate is I want to see the grids in this other view the same way as I have them here. It's a match property of visibility that regards to grids. So please don't fix 100 times each plan. Don't fix their grids. Just fix one perfectly and start propagating around, okay? Now check the scale for the structural plans, etc. Normally you will have both of the scales as well, but I think we're only asking for the first floor composite on top of the footing composite as well. So under this drawing, you will start sliding these drawings. Problem, scale. Again, I'm doing it slow. I double click here and I change it, but you can double click on the paper space, let's call it, in the sheet space. So you go to 116. The grids changes. We know it's gonna be okay unless you want to change some of them because they come from one view that is properly organized. So that's not the section. You place it correctly. You move your title, select the view, make the little line smaller, and things start looking good. I think there's not much more to talk about. You rename, obviously, right click, rename, and you call it as you should. Framing plan, first floor, etc., and the number S100, S101. I'm going to ask for S102 and most probably another S105 for one of the levels of the lab, okay? Okay, I'm going to stop it there.